There are moments in life when heaven seems silent, when your prayers echo in the corridors of waiting, and you begin to wonder if God still remembers your name. But I came to tell you today, get ready. God is about to shock you with His favor. The very areas where you have cried, where you have been overlooked, where you have been faithful but unseen. Those are the exact places where His unexpected favor is about to break loose. God's favor comes suddenly and unexpectedly, transforming hidden faithfulness into visible breakthrough. When God decides it is time to move, He doesn't give a warning or a schedule. He moves in His divine timing, often in moments when you least expect it. You can be going about your ordinary day, doing what you've always done, remaining faithful in the unseen places, and suddenly the atmosphere shifts. Then, the favor of God has a way of showing up without announcement, and when it comes, it changes everything. It pulls you out of obscurity and places you in a position of visibility and influence, not because you sought recognition, but because you remained faithful when no one was watching. There are seasons when your obedience feels unnoticed, your prayers seem unheard, and your service feels small. But God sees it all. He observes every quiet act of faith, every moment you choose integrity over compromise, every tear you cry in secret while still declaring His goodness. Heaven keeps record of what earth overlooks, and in due time, the reward manifests. The favor of God doesn't operate on human timelines. It is not the product of effort or manipulation. It's the supernatural hand of grace that lifts you higher than your qualifications can take you. When God's favor enters a situation, it brings divine acceleration. What should take years can happen in days. Opportunities that seemed unreachable suddenly become accessible. Doors that have been closed for years swing open with ease. You realize that it's not about how hard you've worked, but about the one who has chosen to bless you. Favor does not depend on your status, education, or influence. It depends on God's will. When He says it's time, no power in hell or on earth can stop His blessing from reaching you. The story of hidden faithfulness turning into visible breakthrough is repeated throughout Scripture. Joseph served in prison, forgotten by men but remembered by God. At the appointed moment, God's favor lifted him from the dungeon to the palace. David tended sheep while others were being trained for the throne, yet favor located him in the field and anointed him as king. Esther lived as an orphan, unseen and unknown, until God's favor crowned her as queen for a divine purpose. These were not random events. They were the results of God's sudden and intentional favor finding faithful hearts. You may feel right now as though your life is stagnant, as if your prayers are hitting a wall, but that is often the place right before favor shows up. God allows seasons of hiddenness not to punish you, but to prepare you. When you're hidden, He refines your motives, strengthens your faith, and shapes your character so that when His favor appears, you are ready to handle it. The greater the calling, the longer the preparation, because favor without foundation can destroy what it was meant to bless. Sudden favor comes when the inner work is complete. It's when your heart is anchored in trust, your lips still praise through pain, and your hope refuses to die. That's when God steps in and shifts everything in an instant. It will look like an overnight miracle, but it's really the manifestation of years of quiet obedience. People may call it luck or coincidence, but you'll know it was divine timing. The hidden season was never wasted. It was a setup for your moment of revealing. God takes what was private and makes it public, turning the unseen devotion of your heart into a testimony that glorifies Him before the world. What looks like delay or rejection is divine preparation for elevation. Many times, when we pray and nothing seems to happen, we assume God has forgotten us or denied our request. But heaven's silence is not abandonment. It is often the sound of preparation. God never wastes time. Every delay has purpose. Every closed door has direction. And every rejection carries hidden protection. The waiting season is not a punishment. It is the proving ground where faith is refined and character is developed. God uses what seems like a pause to strengthen you for the wait of what He is about to release. If He were to bless you before you were ready, the very thing meant to promote you could crush you. When God is preparing you for elevation, He allows certain things to fall apart so better things can be built. He allows you to be denied in one place because your name is being mentioned in another. The no that breaks your heart is often the yes that will bless your future. The doors that close now are simply removing distractions so that when the right opportunity opens, you can walk through it with clarity and confidence. Sometimes God hides you to protect you from premature exposure. He keeps you out of the spotlight until your foundation is strong enough to stand in it. That's why the process is slow, why the path is narrow, and why the journey feels lonely. It's not rejection. It's divine insulation. When you look at the stories of people God elevated, there's always a season of delay before the promotion. Joseph was rejected by his brothers and thrown into a pit, then forgotten in prison. Yet every setback was a step toward the palace. David was anointed as king, but had to run for his life before sitting on the throne. Moses spent 40 years in the wilderness before leading a nation. These weren't wasted years. They were divine training grounds. The waiting shaped them into the kind of people who could carry the weight of leadership without losing their humility. What looked like delay was actually God preparing their hearts for destiny. Rejection often feels personal, but it's strategic. God allows certain people to walk away so you can walk forward without baggage. He removes relationships, opportunities, and comforts that were never meant to go with you into the next season. It hurts when doors close, but what's behind those doors could not sustain the level of favor that's coming. That's coming. You may not understand it now, but one day you will look back and thank God for every unanswered prayer, every closed opportunity, every detour, because you'll realize it all pushed you toward purpose. Divine preparation doesn't look glamorous. It looks like obscurity, discipline, stretching, and surrender. It's when God teaches you to trust Him even when nothing makes sense. He builds your spiritual muscles in the dark so you can stand in the light. He allows tests and trials not to break you, but to make you strong enough to handle blessing without pride. The delay gives you perspective. It teaches you to depend on Him and not the gift. Without that preparation, favor would become a burden instead of a blessing. So, when things take longer than you expected, remind yourself that delay is not denial. It is God rearranging circumstances, preparing people, and aligning moments for your elevation. The same God who ordered your steps knows exactly when to reveal you. When it's your time, it will happen quickly, but until then, He is making sure that when you rise, you will stay there. The waiting season may feel uncomfortable, but it is sacred ground where God shapes your destiny in silence. What felt like rejection was really His redirection towards something far greater than you imagined. When God decides to move, no human rule, system, or opinion can stop His favor. Divine favor is not bound by earthly laws or limited by human logic. When God speaks a word over your life, it overrides every obstacle that stands in the way. He does not need approval from men or validation from systems. He is sovereign, and His authority has no rival. What He has ordained cannot be cancelled by anyone's opinion, and what He opens, no one can close. The favor of God breaks through barriers, rewrites policies, and turns impossibilities into testimonies. When He moves on your behalf, even those you oppose, you will have no choice but to witness His power. There are moments in life when it seems like everything is against you. You face rejection, resistance, and ridicule. People may overlook you. Institutions may disqualify you, and circumstances may seem stacked against your progress. Yet none of that matters when heaven has already decided your outcome. God's favor bypasses human reasoning. It can take you places that your sume cannot. It can qualify you for blessings you did not apply for. It can open doors in rooms where your name was never mentioned. The systems of this world may operate by connections, power, and influence, but the kingdom of God operates by favor. When God's hand is upon you, He will make even your enemies contribute to your purpose. The same people who tried to stop you will end up promoting you without realizing it. Pharaoh's resistance made room for Moses' calling. Haman's plot became Esther's platform. The giant Goliath was not sent to destroy David, but to reveal him. God turns opposition into opportunity. What the enemy means for harm becomes the very instrument of elevation. Human opposition is no match for divine orchestration, and what looks like a setback often positions you for supernatural advancement. Favor doesn't just find you, it fights for you. It goes before you to make crooked places straight and rough places smooth. It prepares hearts, changes policies, and shifts atmospheres. When you walk in divine favor, you don't have to strive, you simply align. You don't chase blessings. Blessings chase you. God knows how to make the impossible possible. He can change the heart of a decision maker overnight. He can cause someone to remember you in a moment that changes your destiny. He can take what was meant to block you and use it as the bridge that carries you into your next season. No system or structure can contain the move of God. When He decides to lift you, no power can pull you down. You might not have the right connections or credentials, but when favor speaks, it opens doors that credentials cannot. The miracle is not in the opportunity itself, but in the timing and orchestration of God's plan. He doesn't move according to human deadlines. He moves according to divine purpose. That's why His favor often shows up when everything seems impossible, so that no one can take the credit for what He has done. Sometimes God allows you to face closed doors so that when He opens one, you'll know it was Him and not people. He lets human systems fail you to remind you that His favor is not dependent on them. His authority transcends the limitations of earth. He can promote you in the midst of opposition, bless you in a famine, and prosper you in a wilderness. What He has spoken over your life carries eternal weight, and no decree from man can overturn it. When God decides to move, everything and everyone must align with His command. His favor makes the impossible inevitable and turns every no into a divine setup for a greater? Yes. Divine favor rewrites stories, reverses losses, and brings acceleration where there was stagnation. When God's favor steps into a life, it does not just bless, it transforms. It takes what was broken and makes it whole, what was delayed and makes it swift, what was forgotten and makes it celebrated. The favor of God has a way of turning the pages of your story faster than you imagined. One moment you are in a season of loss, the next you are standing in restoration so full that it erases the pain of the past. Favor doesn't need time to develop. It carries the power to redeem lost years in a single moment. What the enemy thought was permanent defeat becomes the very testimony that reveals the goodness of God. When divine favor moves, it reverses outcomes that were considered final. It breaks cycles of failure and sets a new pattern of blessing. The same people who once pitied you will marvel at what God has done in your life. The same doors that rejected you will now open without resistance. God has a way of rewriting your narrative so completely that your past, that even those who knew cannot comprehend your present. He takes the mistakes, the tears, and the wasted seasons and uses them as ingredients for miracles. Where there was emptiness, He brings abundance. Where there was mourning, He releases joy. Where there was waiting, He sends sudden fulfillment. Acceleration is one of the marks of divine favor. It compresses time and multiplies results. What should have taken 10 years can happen in one. When God breathes on your efforts, progress becomes effortless. You begin to experience divine speed, not because of your ability, but because of His hand. The favor of God does not follow human timelines. It creates its own. It makes up for every delay, every detour, every season of disappointment. It redeems what you thought was lost forever and brings you into a place of overflow that exceeds your imagination. Sometimes God allows stagnation before releasing acceleration so that you will recognize the difference between your effort and His grace. He lets you try, labor, and push. And when you come to the end of your strength, His favor steps in and does in a moment what striving could not accomplish in years. That is why, when favor comes, you can only respond with awe. You realize it was never your power or your wisdom that brought you here. It was the supernatural intervention of a faithful God. His favor doesn't just advance your situation, it restores what life took from you and propels you forward beyond where you would have been without the loss. God's favor is the ultimate story changer. It turns the rejected into the chosen, the overlooked into the anointed, the barren into the fruitful, and the defeated into the victorious. Every testimony of transformation is a reflection of His favor, rewriting a human story. He specializes in making beauty out of ashes, turning sorrow into dancing, and shifting mourning into celebration. There is no story too damaged, no failure too deep, no delay too long for His favor to redeem. He can make up for wasted time, restore broken dreams, and cause your latter days to be greater than your former ones. Where favor rests, the impossible becomes normal. It creates divine reversals that silence doubt and magnify God's glory. People will look at your life and realize that only God could have done it. The favor that once seemed far away suddenly becomes tangible. Everything that was lost begins to return multiplied. That is the power of divine favor. It not only changes your circumstances, it changes your entire direction, lifting you from stagnation into supernatural momentum. Every step forward carries the weight of redemption and the speed of grace. Faith, endurance, and obedience in silence invite supernatural reward in public. There are seasons when God calls you to walk quietly, to believe without applause, and to serve without recognition. These are the hidden moments that test the depth of your faith and the strength of your obedience. When you continue to trust, even when no one is watching, heaven takes notice. God is never moved by noise. He is moved by faith that endures in silence. What you do in private determines what He will reveal in public. Every unseen prayer, every act of obedience, every time you chose to trust instead of complain, those are the seeds that bring harvest in due time. When God seems silent, He is not absent. Silence is His classroom, where he teaches trust, builds endurance, and matures your character. Faith that only works when life feels good is not faith at all. True faith stands firm, even when the path is unclear. God allows moments of quiet testing because He wants your trust to rest, not in visible signs, but in His unchanging nature. In those silent seasons, He refines your motives and purifies your heart so that when He rewards you openly, the glory goes to Him alone. Many people want public blessing, but avoid private surrender. Yet God honors those who worship when no one sees and obey when it's costly. Endurance is the bridge between promise and fulfillment. It is what keeps you walking when the road feels endless and your strength seems gone. God uses endurance to shape your spirit into one that cannot be shaken by circumstance. Every delay, every trial, every disappointment is part of that process. It may look like nothing is happening, but something powerful is being built within you. Endurance gives birth to resilience, and resilience makes you ready for the responsibility that comes with favor. You cannot handle public blessing without the strength that silent endurance develops. Obedience in silence is one of the greatest demonstrations of faith. It means saying yes to God without needing an explanation. It's moving forward when you don't have the full picture, trusting that His plan is greater than your understanding. It's forgiving when you'd rather hold on to pain, giving when you feel empty, loving when it's not returned, and serving when no one appreciates it. God measures obedience not by how visible it is, but by how willing you are to follow Him even when it costs you comfort. Each act of obedience is a step closer to divine manifestation, because obedience aligns your life with heaven's order. When you combine faith, endurance, and obedience, you create an atmosphere where miracles can manifest. Heaven responds to steadfast hearts. God rewards those who continue to trust, even when their prayers seem unanswered. The moments you thought were wasted are the very moments God was recording as evidence of your faithfulness. He does not forget your labor of love, your patience in pain, or your faith in the fire. When the appointed time comes, he brings public reward that reflects every private act of surrender. What was once unseen becomes undeniable, and people who once doubted, you see the proof of God's hand on your life. The secret to divine promotion is not striving, but consistency in faith. Keep believing even when nothing changes. Keep praying even when answers delay. And keep walking in obedience even when you don't understand. God uses your silent seasons to prepare the stage for your public breakthrough. The reward that follows such faith is not just blessing, it is transformation. It shifts your position, elevates your influence, and magnifies His glory through your life. Those who endure in faith without wavering eventually stand as living testimonies of what God does for those who trust Him completely in the silence. God's next move in your life will shock you. Not because you earned it, but because of His mercy and covenant love. God's mercy reaches places your effort never could. His favor doesn't flow from your perfection, but from His promise. He delights in blessing you, not as a reward for performance, but as a revelation of His nature. When God decides to move, it's not about your record, it's about His reputation. He is too faithful to let His word return void. Even when you fell short, His mercy covered you. Even when you doubted, His love remained. And when He moves, it will not be gradual or predictable. It will be sudden, undeniable, and overwhelming. God's love is not limited by your flaws or failures. He specializes in showing His power through imperfect people, so that no one can boast in their own strength. It's never been about how much you've done right. It's always been about how much He loves you. His covenant love is unbreakable. It stands firm through every season of your life. While others may count you out, God counts you in. While some may only see your mistakes, He sees your destiny. That's why His next move in your life will shock not only those around you, but even you. You will stand in awe and realize that grace did what effort never could. The move God is preparing will break patterns that have followed you for years. It will cancel debts, heal wounds, and restore what seemed beyond repair. You've been through seasons of testing, pruning, and waiting, but none of it was wasted. Every tear, every prayer, every moment of endurance was a seed. And now the harvest is coming. You didn't see it forming, but God was working in the background, setting the stage for a divine unveiling. What He's about to do will happen suddenly, and it will carry the mark of heaven. Something so pure, so precise, and so powerful that no one will be able to take the credit for it. God's mercy often appears in the most unexpected ways. Sometimes He blesses you in the same place you were broken. Sometimes He honors you in the same environment that humiliated you. That's His way of proving that He alone is the author of your story. He doesn't need perfect conditions to release perfect favor. Even in chaos, He can create calm. Even in the storm, He can release stillness. His move will defy logic, surpass understanding, and silence doubt. You may have felt like nothing was happening, but what felt like silence was divine strategy. God was aligning people, timing, and circumstances for a moment that will carry eternal significance. When His hand moves, everything shifts at once. You will see closed doors open, hearts soften, and opportunities align in ways you couldn't have orchestrated. The very things that seemed impossible will begin to unfold naturally, and you will know it's God. His mercy will restore what time stole. His love will lift you from places where you settled. His favor will surround you so powerfully that people will recognize it before you do. You won't need to chase it. It will chase you. You won't have to explain it. It will speak for itself. So stay ready. Keep your heart humble, your spirit expectant, and your faith unshaken. The season that's coming is not one of striving, but of receiving. God is about to display His goodness in a way that will exceed every prayer you've prayed and every dream you've dared to imagine. This next move will not just bless you. It will reveal Him. It will testify to His mercy, magnify His covenant love, and remind you that His promises never fail. Get ready, because God is about to shock you with His favor, and when He does, the world will see that His grace is greater than your greatest limitation.